At the Victory Gala, the champagne tower sparkled under the lights. I walked in arm with Lu Tingshan, basking in the envious gazes of the crowd. Then I overheard him talking to his buddies. Marry her, that was just a lost bet from 3 years ago. I'm a man of my word. Besides, she's actually quite useful, a free designer who's saved me hundreds of millions. I slipped off the 3-carat engagement ring from my finger. No tears, no scene. I simply walked to the champagne tower and tossed the ring. Inside, Lu Tingshan, didn't you know I'm the one who let you win that bet 3 years ago? The annual celebration for the Lu Group was held in the ballroom of the Peninsula Hotel. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, and a champagne tower stood half as tall as a person, 360 glasses stacked in a perfect transparent pyramid. Standing beside Lu Tingshan, the 3-carat diamond on my right hand caught the light with a cold, sharp glint. Ms. Shun, Mr. Lu is such a brilliant young man. You two are truly a match. Made in heaven, a socialite whose name I couldn't recall, approached us with a glass in hand and a flattering smile. I gave her a polite, practiced curve of the lips. Lu Tingshan's arm was around my waist, his grip perfectly measured, neither too loose nor too tight. As if rehearsed 1,000 times, he looked down at me, his eyes so tender they could melt hearts. Qingshu looks stunning tonight, doesn't she? I had seen this performance at least 100 times, but I had never doubted it for 3 years. He played the part every single day. The details were flawless, the emotions profound. Even I thought it was real. President Lu, sis, over here, let's grab a drink with the boys. Juyi, Tingshan's childhood friend and business partner, waved from a VIP booth in the corner. Lu Tingshan patted my waist. I'll go catch up. Feel free to mingle. Sure. I headed toward the dessert table with my champagne glass. It wasn't because I had a sweet tooth, it was because that spot was perfect for eavesdropping. Having spent 3 years coordinating events, I knew exactly where the acoustics were best. 4 men were in the booth: Juyi, Lu Tingshan, and 2 of his college roommates I barely knew. I kept my back to them, pretending to pick out macarons. Juyi's voice was the loudest. Tingshan, when are you actually marrying Shen Qingshu? You've been engaged for 2 years, you can't keep dragging your feet. My hand, holding the silver tongs, froze for a split second. Lu Tingshan said nothing. Another man spoke up, sounding a bit tipsy. Deep down, do you even want to marry her? I mean, she's gorgeous and talented, but that personality, she's cold as a stone. Silence. Then I heard Lu Tingshan laugh. I knew that laugh all too well, not the gentle, warm chuckle he reserved for me, but the careless, slightly contemptuous laugh he only shared with Juyi. Marry her. His voice was lazy, as if discussing a trivial matter. I only followed through because I lost the bet back then. The silver tongs slipped from my hand, hitting the porcelain plate with a sharp clack. But I didn't care. Juyi was laughing. Haha, you still haven't told her. Told her what? Lu Tingshan's voice was thick with drunken nonchalance. That I bet you guys 5 million I could land the hardest woman in the circle within 3 months. That I bet I could get her to agree to an engagement. The other man slammed the table, roaring with laughter. And you closed the deal in 2. Damn man, you're a legend. A bet's a bet, Lu Tingshan said airily. Since I lost, I might as well marry her. She's useful after all. Having a top-tier chief designer for free has saved me hundreds of millions in headhunting and design fees. Holy crap, Tingshan, 5 million for a world-class designer, that's a steal. That's why I made sure to throw a few compliments her way when she designed their Abyss series. Lu Tingshan remarked, his tone treating me like a high-end tool. You have to give people a little sugar to keep them working. Juyi lowered his voice. She has no idea, right? Know what? Lu Tingshan scoffed. She thinks I'm head over heels for her. Women, all they need is a little sweet talk. The breakup. I stood at the dessert table, my back ramrod straight on my right ring finger. The 3-carat diamond felt like it was bruising my bone. 3 years, 3 months. 5 million, a lost bet, useful, free. Those words circled my mind like knives, carving into my heart. But I didn't cry, not because I was strong, but because I realized my eyes were bone dry, not a single tear. I looked down at the champagne in my hand. The bubbles were rising, the golden liquid reflecting the crystal lights. It looked hauntingly beautiful. I turned around, my heels clicked against the marble floor, each step as steady as a heartbeat. The 4 men in the booth were still laughing. Lu Tingshan had his back to me. Juyi was the first to see me. His smile froze instantly. Sis. Lu Tingshan turned his head. The transition on his face was fascinating, a flicker of shock followed by an immediate switch back to his tender lover mask. Qingshu, what are you doing here? Come sit. No need. My voice was calm, so calm it sounded foreign to my own ears. I raised my right hand, the diamond ring flashing under the lights. Lu Tingshan's eyes landed on the ring, his brow furrowing slightly. "What's wrong?" "I heard everything," I said. The booth went dead silent. Juyi turned pale, the other two looked like they wanted to vanish into their seats. Lu Tingshan's expression didn't shift, but his eyes did. For a fraction of a second I saw a flash of humiliation turned rage before he suppressed it. "Heard what?" He stood up, reaching for my hand. "Let me explain." "Don't bother." I stepped back, avoiding his touch, then I pulled the ring off. It felt heavy in my palm. I looked at it and remembered his proposal 2 years ago, the candlelight dinner, the violinist playing canon in D on one knee. I thought that was love. Now I knew it was just $5 million worth of acting. Lu Tingshan. I used his full name, not Tingshan, not Honey, just Lu Tingshan. "You won that bet 3 years ago." I did say yes. I gripped the ring and walked toward the champagne tower. The pyramid of 360 glasses shimmered. The music stopped. The chatter died down. Hundreds of eyes turned toward us. Lu Tingshan followed me, his voice low and threatening. "Shen Qingshu, don't make a scene." I ignored him. I stood before the tower and held the ring up for everyone to see. This ring was placed on my finger by Mr. Lu Tingshan when he proposed 2 years ago. My voice wasn't loud, but in the silence of the ballroom every word carried. I always thought it represented love. I opened my fingers. The ring slipped through the gaps, falling into the top glass. A crisp ting echoed like a bell. It sank through the golden liquid, tumbling down through the layers of glasses, finally landing at the base with a dull thud. The room was pin-drop silent. I turned to face Lu Tingshan. His face was livid. "The engagement is off," I stated. I picked up a stray glass of champagne from a waiter's tray and raised it toward him. "I hope you have better luck with your next bet." I set the glass down and walked away. My heels were steady on the floor. As I reached the doors, I heard Lu Tingshan's roar behind me. "Shen Qingshu, stop right there." I didn't stop. I pushed through the doors into the hallway. I had walked about 20 paces down the red-carpeted hall when I heard frantic footsteps behind me. It was Juyi. "Sis, don't be mad. Tingshan was just drunk and talking nonsense." I stopped and looked at him. "Juyi, yeah. You were there for that bet 3 years ago, weren't you?" Juyi opened his mouth but couldn't find the words. I nodded. "Right, I thought so." I turned and kept walking. Behind me, Juyi's phone rang. He picked up, his voice hushed. "Hello Tingshan, she's gone." "Yeah, toward the elevators." I stepped into the elevator and hit the button. As the doors closed, I pulled out my phone and sent a message. It was only 3 words. "Start it, Qin Zheng." As the elevator descended, only one thought occupied my mind. "Lu Tingshan, you thought you won 3 years ago. What you didn't know is that I'm the one who let you win. And the real game, it starts now." The elevator hit the ground floor. A reply popped up. "Understood." I tucked my phone away and stepped out into the night. The wind whipped at my dress. I glanced back at the glowing windows of the ballroom. Lu Tingshan's silhouette was visible against the glass, pacing angrily on the phone. I turned my back on him and climbed into a black Mercedes waiting at the curb. My lawyer was already inside. "Ms. Shin, everything is ready." "Good." The car pulled away. I leaned back and closed my eyes. The indentation from the ring on my finger still felt like it was burning. "Lu Tingshan, you're about to find out exactly who is useful to whom." The next morning at 7:00 a.m. my phone buzzed. Not an alarm, a call from Lu Tingshan. I glanced at the screen, silenced it, and flipped it face down on the nightstand. I got up, showered, and changed. At exactly 8:00 a.m. I arrived at the Lu Group headquarters. The security guard greeted me. "Good morning, Ms. Shin." "Morning." I swiped my card through the gate and headed for the top floor. When the elevator doors slid open, the hallway was deathly quiet. My studio was at the very end of the corridor, the plaque on the door reading, "Shen Qingshu, Chief Designer." I pushed the door open. The office was spotless, looking exactly as it had yesterday. Lu Tingshan, however, clearly didn't share that sentiment. At 8:15 a.m., he kicked my office door open. "Shen Qingshu." He stood in the doorway, jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows, and his tie hanging loosely around his neck. His hair was a mess and his eyes were bloodshot. He obviously hadn't slept a wink. I sat in my office chair, a cup of coffee sitting in front of me as I flipped through a magazine. "Good morning, Mr. Lu. Don't give me that crap." He walked in and slammed the door behind him. "I can explain the ring. I had too much to drink last night." "You weren't drunk." I turned a page. "In my magazine, you were perfectly sober and you spoke every word clearly. I recorded it. Want to hear?" Lu Tingshan's expression shifted. He stared at me for 3 seconds before taking a deep breath and switching tactics. Qingshu, his voice softened. I admit that bet 3 years ago was wrong of me, but over the last 2 years my feelings for you. Are your feelings for me real? I set the magazine down and looked up at him. Is that what you were going to say? He nodded. I laughed. Lu Tingshan. Last month you told Ju Yi Shen Qingshu's design patents are all under the company name. She couldn't leave even if she wanted to. You said that, didn't you? His pupils contracted. How did you? When I helped him renovate your office, I happened to install a recording device. I said it casually, as if I were commenting on the weather. Lu Tingshan's face went from livid to deathly pale. You don't get worked up. I stood up and took a sip of my coffee. It wasn't a bug, it was a smart voice system. Gifted by the renovation company, you signed the authorization agreement yourself. You just didn't read the fine print. I set the cup down, picked up the remote on the desk and pressed a button. A projection screen lowered in the corner of the office. On the screen was a transcript of a recording, time-stamped the 15th of last month. Lu Tingshan's voice came through the speakers. Shen Qingshu's design patents are all under the company name. She couldn't leave even if she wanted to. I gave her those client resources too. Without me she's nothing. The recording continued. Ju Yi's voice. So when do you plan on marrying her? Lu Tingshan. We'll see, she's still useful. There are 3 more series to launch after their BIS collection. We'll talk after she's done with the designs. Ju Yi. What if she finds out about the bet? Lu Tingshan. So what if she does? She's just a designer. What kind of waves could she possibly make? The recording ended. The office became so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Lu Tingshan stood frozen, his expression morphing from shock to rage, and then into a coldness I had never seen before. Shen Qingshu. He lowered his voice. You've known this whole time? No. I shook my head. I only found out about the bet last night. But I only got around to organizing the recordings this morning. I turned off the projector and picked up a file folder from the desk. That's not what you should be worried about though. I tossed the folder onto the desk. Take a look. Lu Tingshan stared at the folder for a few seconds before picking it up and tearing it open. Inside was a thick stack of documents. As he flipped through the pages, his hands began to shake. This is my design patent authorizations, client resource lists, supply chain contracts, and design plans for the next 2 years. I leaned against the desk, arms crossed. Every single one is my original work and every single one bears my signature, and you, Lu Tingshan, only hold a license to use agreement. Not an ownership agreement. Lu Tingshan snapped his head up. That's impossible. Back then your legal team had me sign a joint development agreement. I modified a few clauses, and since you were in a rush to launch the project, you signed it without a second glance. I smiled. Like I said, you never look at the fine print. Lu Tingshan's breathing grew ragged. He slammed the folder onto the desk and marched over to the filing cabinet, yanking open a drawer. Empty. He pulled another. Empty. He turned to the design draft storage and opened the safe. There was nothing inside but a single slip of paper. He picked it up. It was my handwriting. The game is on, Mr. Lu. Lu Tingshan crumpled the paper into a ball, his knuckles white. He turned around, his eyes bloodshot. Shen Qingshu, do you have any idea what you're doing? I do. You're crossing me. No, I corrected him. I'm settling the score. I picked up my phone and checked the time. 8:45 a.m. You have 15 minutes left. 15 minutes for what? The board of directors meets at 9. The agenda is re-evaluating the bet agreement from 3 years ago. Lu Tingshan's face changed. It was a subtle shift, first confusion, then recollection, and finally terror. How do you know about the bet agreement? Because that agreement, I took a USB drive out of the drawer and spun it in my hand, is the one I made you sign. Impossible. 3 years ago you needed bridge funding to secure that plot of land in the East City. I introduced you to an investor, remember? Lu Tingshan's lips moved. But no sound came out. That investor had one condition: sign a performance-based bet. The terms were that the Lu Group's crossover jewelry line had to increase its market value by 300% within 3 years. If you failed, you'd step down as CEO. I placed the USB on the desk. You were so sure the jewelry line would be a hit, especially with me as your free designer, that you signed it without hesitation. I destroyed that agreement a long time ago. You destroyed the copy. I said, I have the original. Lu Tingshan's eyes went wide, his pupils shrinking to pinpricks. He stared at me as if I were a total stranger. Who are you really? I'm Shen Qingshu. I smiled. Your fiancé, your chief designer, the useful person you talked about. My phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. It was the board secretary. Hello, MS. Shun, the shareholder meeting starts at 9. As a 3% shareholder, you have the right to attend, will you? I'll be there in 10 minutes. I hung up, grabbed the USB and the folder, and headed for the door. As I passed Lu Tingshan, he grabbed my wrist. His grip was iron tight, his nails digging into my skin. Shen Qingshu, if you dare, Lu Tingshan. I looked down at his hand, then up into his eyes. You're hurting me. He didn't let go. If you dare take that agreement to the board, I will make sure what? My voice went cold, that my design career is over, that the industry blacklists me, or like you said last night, she's just a designer. What kind of waves could she possibly make? His grip loosened slightly. I pulled my wrist away, leaving 5 red marks behind. Lu Tingshan, your biggest mistake wasn't making that bet. Then what was it? It was thinking that I was just a designer. I turned and walked out of the office. In the hallway, my assistant, Xiao Lin, was already waiting with a cardboard box in her arms. MS Shen, I've moved everything out of the studio. Good, let's go. We headed for the elevator. Behind us, a loud crash echoed from Lu Tingshan's office. He had hurled a chair against the wall. Just as the elevator doors were closing, I heard him scream down the hall, Shen Qingshu, you'll regret this. I pressed the button for the first floor. MS Shen, Xiao Lin asked softly. Where are we going now? Hungrui Tower. Hungrui, isn't that our competitor? Not anymore. I opened my phone and checked a message from Qin Zheng. The board is all set. Proposal is at 9:00 am sharp. When will you get to Hungrui? I typed back, 10:00 am. Get the media ready. I'm holding a press conference. The elevator reached the ground floor. I walked out of the Lu Group building, the sunlight hitting my face a bit too bright. I squinted and looked back at the 40-story skyscraper. The glass curtain wall at the top reflected the sun with a blinding glare. Lu Tingshan's silhouette appeared behind a top-floor window. I couldn't see his expression, but I could imagine it. I turned away and got into the car. Let's go. As the car pulled out of the parking lot, my phone pinged, not a call but an email from Lu Tingshan. Subject, where are you? I didn't open it. I deleted it instantly. Then I sent a message to Qin Zheng. For the 10:00 am conference, have one thing ready for me. What is it? The full recording of that bet from 3 years ago. I want to play it in front of everyone. Lu Group boardroom, 9:00 am. 10 directors sat around the long table, the atmosphere so heavy it felt like it might freeze. Lu Tingshan sat at the head of the table. He had changed into a fresh suit and fixed his hair. His face was a mask of indifference, but beneath the table his knuckles were white as he gripped his seat. This emergency meeting was called at the request of shareholder MS Shen Qingshu. The board secretary began. The agenda is to re-examine an agreement signed 3 years ago. That agreement is null and void. Lu Tingshan interrupted, his voice steady. On what grounds is it void? Zhao Huan, an independent director sitting across from him, spoke up. Zhao was the most senior veteran on the board, in his 60s with silver hair and eyes as sharp as a hawk's. The original agreement has been destroyed. Destroyed by whom? Me. Zhao Huan took off his glasses and wiped the lenses. Mr. Lu, for a document of that caliber, a destruction requires dual signatures and a third-party witness. Do you have those? Lu Tingshan remained silent. The boardroom door swung open. My lawyer, Fang Yuan, walked in, dressed in a sharp suit and carrying a silver briefcase. Good morning, directors, Fang Yuan said, placing the briefcase on the table. I am here as the legal representative of MS Shen Qingshu. MS Shen is unable to attend in person and has authorized me to submit a document on her behalf. He entered the code and opened the case. Inside was a document sealed in a bag, stamped by a notary office. Fang Yuan handed the document to the board secretary. The secretary broke the seal and projected the contents onto the large screen. Everyone saw it clearly. It was a performance-based bet signed 3 years ago. Party A was Lu Tingshan personally. Party B was an offshore fund named K Capital. The terms were crystal clear. Lu Tingshan promised that the Lu Group's crossover jewelry line would achieve a 300% market value increase within 3 years. Should he fail, Lu Tingshan must resign as CEO and transfer 15% of his company shares to Party B. On the final page was Lu Tingshan's own signature and thumbprint. The room erupted into chaos. That's impossible. Lu Tingshan stood up. That agreement was already, Already what? Zhao Huan looked at him. Lu Tingshan shut his mouth. He couldn't say already destroyed, because admitting that in front of the entire board was equivalent to admitting he had illegally destroyed a vital company document. Fang Yuan spoke up calmly. This agreement has been notarized and carries full legal weight. Furthermore, per the terms, Party B has the right to claim their rights within 6 months of the expiration date. The agreement expired yesterday. He checked his watch. To be precise, 9 hours ago. The conference room remained silent for 3 seconds. Zhao Huan was the first to speak. According to the agreement, President Liu, you are required to resign from your position as CEO within the day. Wait a minute. Another director raised a hand. The second party to this agreement is an offshore fund. What does that have to do with Shenqingshu? Fang Yuan smiled. Ms. Shenqingshu is the authorized representative for K Capital in the China region. Those words hit the conference room like a bombshell. Lu Tingshan's face went pale. He stared at the agreement projected on the screen, his lips trembling slightly. 3 years ago, he remembered the day he signed that contract. Back then, he desperately needed funds to acquire a piece of land, and Shenqingshu had introduced him to an investor. The investor claimed it was just a standard performance-based bet on the whole agreement, merely a formality. He had reviewed the terms and felt that achieving 300% growth in the jewelry line over 3 years was no problem. After all, he had Shenqingshu, so he signed it. After signing, the investor took the original document saying, "I'll keep it safe." Later, once the jewelry line took off, he felt the agreement was no longer necessary and sent the legal department to retrieve and destroy the original. The investor told them it had already been destroyed. He believed it because he thought no one would dare play games in front of Lu Tingshan. But now he knew that investor belonged to Shenqingshu. They had from the very beginning. "I want to see Shenqingshu." Lu Tingshan's voice was hoarse. "Ms. Shen is unavailable right now." Fang Yuan packed up the briefcase, but she asked me to pass along a message. "What message?" she said. "President Liu, didn't you say I was useful? Now you know exactly what useful looks like." Meanwhile, at the Hungrui Group Building 38th floor press hall, exactly 10:00 am, I stood backstage peeking through the gap in the curtains at the audience below. About 40 media outlets had arrived, a row of cameras and long lenses already set up, financial reporters, entertainment journalists, fashion bloggers. They were all there. Qin Zheng stood beside me, holding a copy of the press release. "Ready?" "Yes. There are rumors out there that you and Lu Tingshan have had a falling out. After this press conference, those rumors will be set in stone." "That's exactly the point." I straightened my collar and took a deep breath. "Let's go." The curtains drew back and the flashbulbs erupted into a sea of light. I walked onto the stage and stood behind the podium. "Hello to all our friends in the media. I am Shenqingshu." The shutter clicks were relentless. "I've called this press conference to announce 2 things. I opened the folder in front of me. First, as of today, I am officially joining Hungrui Group as a partner and chief creative officer for the jewelry sector. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. Hungrui was the Lu Group's biggest competitor in jewelry. Everyone present knew exactly what this news implied. Second, I closed the folder. I am filing a patent infringement lawsuit against the Lu Group in my own name, seeking 500 million renminbi in damages. The noise from the floor grew louder. A reporter raised their hand. "Ms. Shen, what about your engagement to Mr. Lu Tingshan? It's been called off. Can you tell us why?" I remained silent for 2 seconds, then I pulled my phone from my pocket and pressed play. Lu Tingshan's voice came through the speakers. Crystal clear. "Marry her. That was just because I lost a bet back then. I'm a man of my word, and besides, she really is useful. A free chief designer saved me hundreds of millions in headhunting and design fees." The room went dead silent. The flashes stopped, the whispering stopped. Everyone stared at the speakers on stage. The recording finished. I put my phone away. "That is the reason," I said. The room exploded. Reporters scrambled to raise their hands, questions flying like artillery shells. "Ms. Shen, when did you discover the truth? Are you seeking revenge against Lu Tingshan? What terms did Hungrui offer you?" I didn't answer a single one. I stood up and addressed the camera for one final sentence. "Mr. Lu Tingshan, if you're watching this live, I kept a backup of every single document you had me sign. I'll see you in court." I turned and walked off stage. Backstage, Qin Zheng was leaning against the wall with a cup of coffee. "Brilliant." He handed me the cup. "What's next?" "The courthouse." "So soon?" "Not soon enough." I took a sip of the coffee. "I've been waiting 3 years for this day." 3 days later, 48 hours after the Hungrui press conference, 8 of the 12 VIP clients from the Lu Group's jewelry line had already called me. The first was Mrs. Ju. Her voice was trembling over the phone. Qingshu, is that recording real? Did President Lu really say those things? It's real. My goodness, I've known you for so many years. I know exactly what kind of girl you are, Lu. Tingshan is a total scoundrel. Mrs. Ju, thank you. About that, when is your new collection with Hungrui coming out? Next month. I'll be there to see it then. I'll bring a few of my friends with me. I look forward to it. After hanging up, I checked off the names on my client list one by one. Each of these 12 clients was someone I had nurtured from scratch. It wasn't the Lu brand they trusted, it was every piece I designed with my own hands, every afternoon tea I shared with them, and every thoughtful gift I sent for their weddings, birthdays, and baby showers. They recognized Shen Qingshu, not the Lu Group. At 2:00 p.m. I arrived at the court. Fang Yuan was already waiting at the entrance, carrying 3 large file boxes, 3 core patents. The evidence chain is fully organized. Any response from his side? The Lu Group's legal team filed for an extension, claiming they need time to verify evidence. Denied. Already denied. The judge set the court date for next month. I nodded and walked through the courthouse doors. When I finished filing the materials and stepped outside, a black Maybach was parked at the bottom of the steps. The door opened, and Lu Tingshan stepped out. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit, his hair meticulously combed, but he looked terrible. His cheekbones were far more prominent than they were 3 days ago. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. He stood by the car watching me. I walked down the steps and stopped 3 paces away. President Lu. Can I help you? Drop the lawsuit. No, Shen Qingshu. His voice was low, vibrating with suppressed rage. Do you realize what you're doing? You're destroying 3 years of your own hard work. If the Lu jewelry line fails, your designs go down with it. My designs won't fail. I looked him in the eye. But your jewelry line is definitely finished. You, Lu Tingshan, listen closely. I took a step forward until I was only an arm's length away. Those 3 patents were personal patents I applied for before I ever joined the Lu Group. The authorized use agreement you had me sign had a 3-year term. It expired yesterday. Lu Tingshan's pupils contracted. From this moment on, you have no right to use a single one of my designs. Every current product in the Lu jewelry line is now an infringement. My voice wasn't loud, but every word hit like a hammer. Either you pay me 500 million or you shut down production entirely. The choice is yours. Lu Tingshan stared at me, his chest heaving. He stepped closer, his face nearly touching mine. Shen Qingshu. You think you can win? I don't think so. I stepped back to regain my space. I know I can. I turned and got into my car. As the door closed, I heard Lu Tingshan say one thing from outside. It wasn't loud, but I heard it clearly. He said, "Just you wait." 1 week later, the Lu Group Jewelry VIP Appreciation Gala. I didn't receive an invitation, but my people were there. Xiao Lin, dressed in a waiter's uniform, made a round through the ballroom. By the time he returned, he had 12 recordings on his phone. Every single one was from a VIP client. Director Li, we've followed Shen Qingshu's designs for 5 years. If she's not at Lu Group, there's no reason for us to stay. President Wang, I'm sorry, but we saw the drafts for Hungrui's new collection. It's definitely Shen Qingshu's work. We plan to move our business there. Director Zhao, we won't be renewing when the contract expires. When can we handle the paperwork? 12 clients, every last one of them, terminated their cooperation when the news reached Lu Tingshan. He was in the middle of a speech on stage. Apparently, halfway through, an assistant went up and handed him a note. He glanced at it, and his face transformed. He ended the speech abruptly, and as he walked off stage, he slammed the microphone onto the floor. I didn't see any of that. What I did know was that at 11:00 p.m. that night, my phone rang. It was Lu Tingshan. I answered. Shen Qingshu. Yes, you poached my clients. I didn't poach them, they left on their own. You contacted them in advance. Yes, 6 months ago. There was 5 seconds of silence on the other end. 6 months ago. That's right, 6 months ago, the first time you told Juyi she's just a designer. What waves could she possibly make? I started preparing. You, Lu Tingshan, what did you think I was? Your accessory, your tool, your free labor. My voice remained calm. You were wrong. I am Shen Qingshu. My designs, my clients, and my patents were never yours to begin with. You were calculating against me from the start. No, I said, in the beginning I truly loved you, but you didn't deserve it. I hung up. Then I blocked him. The day after the gala, the jewelry partners section on the Lu Group website dropped from 12 brands down to 3. The remaining 3 were only there because their contracts hadn't expired yet, ending in 3, 5, and 8 months respectively, but I knew they were just waiting for my new collection to launch. Hungrui moved fast. Qin Zhang gave me an independent team of 20 people, everyone from design assistants to supply chain managers was handpicked by me. The new collection was titled Rebirth. The launch was scheduled for next month. Before that, I had one more thing to do, the court hearing. Fang Yuan notified me a week in advance. The Lu Group's legal team has been replaced. They've brought in the Ace Litigation Group from Tianheng Law Firm led by attorney Chen, one of the top 3 intellectual property lawyers in the industry. Are you worried? Not at all. Fang Yuan smiled. The evidence chain is in my hands, it doesn't matter who they bring. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. I sat in the plaintiff's seat, while Lu Tingshan sat behind the defense. He caught my eye once, his expression unreadable. Attorney Chen stood up, his opening statement polished and flawless. Your Honor, the defense contends that the 3 patents in question constitute work for hire. Ms. Shen Qingshu held the position of chief designer at the Lu Group when these works were created, utilizing the group's equipment, funding and team support. Fang Yuan stood up to interrupt. Your Honor, the plaintiff has evidence proving that the core design drafts for all 3 patents were created before Ms. Shen Qingshu joined the Lu Group. He pressed play. A series of photos appeared on the large screen, scans of my design manuscripts, each clearly bearing a date stamp. The dates were from 3 years ago, prior to my employment at the Lu Group. Attorney Chen's expression shifted. Fang Yuan continued. Furthermore, the plaintiff possesses complete communication records between Ms. Shen Qingshu and Mr. Lu Tingshan regarding the patent licensing matters. He played a recording. Lu Tingshan's voice came through the speakers. Qingshu, just sign the licensing agreement for these patents. It's just a formality for the legal department, don't make it too complicated. My voice followed. I've reviewed the terms, there are a few sections that need revision. Lu Tingshan, no need. It's just a paper trail, why are we drawing lines between us? My voice. Then I'll just change a few words and add an expiration date to the authorization. Lu Tingshan, fine, change whatever you want, just sign it quickly, the project is waiting to go live. The recording ended, the courtroom fell silent. Fang Yuan turned to the judge. Your Honor, this recording clearly demonstrates that the defendant was fully aware the plaintiff held independent rights to these patents, yet he still attempted to misappropriate her intellectual property under the guise of work for hire. Counselor Chen's face went pale. He shot a glance at Lu Tingshan. Lu Tingshan sat behind the defense table, hands clasped, his knuckles turning white from the pressure. After the hearing, the judge announced, the claims for the 3 patent cases are substantiated. This case is formally docketed for trial. As I walked out of the courtroom, I ran into Lu Tingshan in the hallway. He was leaning against the wall, lighting a cigarette. Smoking was prohibited in the courthouse, but he clearly didn't care. Shen Qingshu. Yes, how much more evidence do you have? A lot. What is it you want? Take a guess. He took a deep drag, smoke swirling through the corridor. You want the Lu Group? No, I shook my head. I want you to lose. The cigarette slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor. Do you really hate me that much? I don't hate you. I looked him in the eye. I'm just done being your tool. I turned to leave. Behind me, Lu Tingshan's voice chased after me. Shen Qingshu, do you think you can survive in this industry after leaving me? Do you really believe I won't have you blacklisted? I didn't look back. Try me. 3 days after the hearing, Lu Tingshan's blacklist order arrived. To be precise, it was a whisper campaign he orchestrated through trade associations. The message was clear. Anyone who works with Shen Qingshu is an enemy of the Lu Group. But the result was the exact opposite of what he intended. My phone was ringing off the hook, not with threats but with offers. Ms. Shen, I'm the founder of XX Jewelry. We've always admired your work. If you have the time. Teacher Shen, our brand would love to collaborate on a collection. Qingshu, it's your senior from school. My boss wants to take you to dinner. Lu Tingshan forgot one crucial thing. In the world of high jewelry, the designer is the core asset. Brands can be replaced, distribution channels can be changed, but the hands of a master designer are irreplaceable, and I was the best in the business. Bar none. By the 5th day of the blacklist, the supply chain for Lu Group's jewelry line collapsed. My Belgian diamond supplier, the De Keersmaker family, and I had a 5-year friendship. The moment they heard I'd broken ranks with Lu Tingshan, they notified the Lu Group that their contract would not be renewed. When Lu Tingshan's procurement director called to demand a reason, they gave a one-sentence reply. We only work with Shinqingshu. Lu Tingshan flew to Belgium personally, only to be met with a closed door. He called me 7 times from his hotel in Brussels. I didn't answer a single one. After the 7th call, he sent a text. What do you want? I replied with 3 words. See you in court. On the day of the trial, over 20 media outlets were gathered at the courthouse entrance. I wore a black suit. My hair pulled back in a low ponytail and a pair of silver feather earrings I had designed myself. They caught the light with a cold, sharp glint. Fang Yuan walked beside me carrying 3 briefcases full of documents. Nervous? Not at all. Lu Tingshan brought 3 expert witnesses. I brought 5. Fang Yuan smiled. Inside the courtroom, Lu Tingshan sat at the defense table flanked by Counselor Chen and 2 other lawyers. I sat at the plaintiff's table directly across from him. The judge rapped the gavel. Plaintiff, please state your claims. Fang Yuan stood up. Our claims are as follows. First, to confirm that MS Shinqingshu holds full copyright and patent rights to the starry sky, abyss and glimmer jewelry designs. Second, to order the Lu Group to immediately cease all infringement and destroy all infringing products. Third, to order the defendant to compensate the plaintiff for economic losses in the amount of 500 million RMB. Counselor Chen stood up. Your Honor, the defense believes, Your Honor, Fang Yuan interrupted. Before the defense proceeds, the plaintiff requests to present a new set of evidence. Granted. Fang Yuan opened a briefcase, producing a stack of documents and a USB drive. This is the complete communication record between MS Shinqingshu and Mr. Lu Tingshan regarding the 3 patents, including emails, WeChat logs, and 3 phone recordings. The chat logs began playing on the big screen. Lu Tingshan's WeChat messages. Qingshu, don't worry about the patents, the company will handle it, just focus on your designs. I had legal fix the licensing agreement, take a look and sign it if it's okay. Don't worry about those clauses, it's just a formality. There's no yours or mine between us. Fang Yuan pressed play on the recording. Lu Tingshan's voice. Qingshu, just sign it, the Lu Group's jewelry line will be your stage, I promise no one will ever challenge your credit, my voice, and the patent ownership. Lu Tingshan, the ownership goes to the company but the credit is yours. It's better for everyone this way, the company gets the assets and you get the fame, my voice. Then I'll add an expiration date to the authorization. Lu Tingshan, fine, add it. We're getting married anyway, why be so calculating? The recording stopped, there were audible gasps in the courtroom. Fang Yuan turned to the judge. Your Honor, this recording proves that the defendant, while fully aware the plaintiff held independent rights, used a marriage proposal to induce her into signing an unconscionable agreement. Counselor Chen jumped up. Objection, the plaintiff is taking things out of context. Objection sustained. The judge said, Plaintiff, please continue. Fang Yuan didn't dwell on it, instead he pulled out the heavy hitter. Your Honor, we have one more piece of evidence, a prenuptial agreement signed by MS Shinqingshu and Mr. Lu Tingshan 3 years ago. The room went dead silent. Lu Tingshan's expression shifted instantly. In this agreement, Mr. Lu Tingshan explicitly promised that all designs created by MS Shinqingshu during her tenure at the Lu Group would remain her personal intellectual property. The Lu Group was granted only usage rights with a term limit of 3 years. Fang Yuan projected the agreement onto the screen. There it was, in black and white, clear as day. The final page bore Lu Tingshan's signature. Lu Tingshan's face drained of all color. He turned to Chen, whispering harshly, I thought that agreement was destroyed. Chen looked equally shaken. I didn't know another copy existed. Fang Yuan caught the exchange and offered a thin smile. Mr. Lu, are you wondering how this exists if it was destroyed? Lu Tingshan said nothing. 3 years ago, you had your assistant pull this agreement from the corporate archives and send it to a shredding company. What you didn't know was that MS Shinqingshu always kept the original. Fang Yuan placed the document back in the case, because from the very beginning, she knew the day would come when you would make this necessary. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. The judge rapped the gavel. Does the defense have anything to say? Counselor Chen stood up, opened his mouth and then closed it again. Lu Tingshan sat with his head bowed, his hands trembling. During the recess, I walked out of the courtroom. Lu Tingshan caught up to me, blocking my path in the hallway. Shinqingshu. I stopped. That agreement, when did you get your hands on it? 3 years ago. You've been calculating against me from the start. I told you. I said, meeting his gaze. It wasn't a calculation, it was self-preservation. Self-preservation, exactly, because I knew that a man who treats a relationship like a bet isn't a man who can be trusted. Lu Tingshan froze. I walked around him toward the elevator. Shen Qingshu, he shouted behind me. What do you want, to destroy me, to destroy the company? No, I pressed the elevator button. I just want you to know what it feels like to be treated like a tool. The doors opened, I stepped inside and turned around to face him. His suit was wrinkled, his tie was crooked, and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked like a gambler who had just bet his last chip and lost. Lu Tingshan, I said as the doors began to close, you lost the bet. The lawsuit was still ongoing, but the capital markets wait for no one. Over at the Hungrui Group, Qin Zheng gave me a new mission, Hong Kong. Shen Qingshu, I thought you were a jewelry designer. Since when do you do venture capital? I minored in finance in college. Is there anything you can't do? I can't lose. Qin Zheng laughed. Hong Kong Central 58th floor of the International Finance Center Phase 2. I sat in a boardroom at an investment bank facing 3 fund managers in sharp suits. Ms. Shun, Hungrui's proposal is to increase our stake in the Lu Group through the secondary market. Our target is 10%. 8% is enough. 8% only makes you the 3rd largest shareholder. You won't have control. I don't need control, I just need a seat on the board. I pushed a file toward them. This is the Lu Group's current ownership structure. Lu Tingshan holds 28% as the majority shareholder. Institutional investors hold 15%, the rest is fragmented among retail investors. I flipped to the next page. The plan is to buy in through multiple shell accounts to hit 8%. Then at the extraordinary general meeting we moved to terminate the CEO. The manager looked at the file, then back at me. Shen, are you sure this is a direct declaration of war against Lu Tingshan? The war already started, I said. I'm just finishing it. 1 week later, during a board meeting, Lu Tingshan received a report that made his skin crawl. Mr. Lu, someone is aggressively buying our stock on the secondary market over the last 5 trading days. They've accumulated roughly 5%. Who? Hard to say, it's split across dozens of accounts, but based on the trading patterns, it's the same entity. Lu Tingshan stood up. Find out, I want names. 3 days later the answer came. The buyer was an investment arm of the Hungrui Group, and the partner in charge of Hungrui's jewelry sector was none other than Shen Qingshu. Lu Tingshan slammed his coffee cup onto the floor. Where did she get that kind of money? The assistant whispered. Hungrui reportedly gave her a signing bonus of 100 million, plus her personal assets. Also, we found an offshore fund backing her. What fund? K Capital. Lu Tingshan's face went white. K Capital again, the same fund that had signed the performance-based bet 3 years ago. He had thought it was just some outside investor's money. Now he knew it was Shen Qingshu's money. It had been her money from the very beginning. 5 days passed. I had accumulated a total of 83% of Lu Group's shares through the secondary market. According to the company's articles of association, any shareholder holding more than 5% has the right to propose an extraordinary general meeting. I had Fang Yuan send out the notice. It contained only one agenda item, a proposal to re-elect the CEO of Lu Group. When Lu Tingshan received the notice, he was in a meeting with lawyer Chen. He slammed the document onto the table. She's lost her mind. Chen remained silent for a moment before speaking. She hasn't. Under the bylaws, a shareholder with more than 8% is indeed entitled to propose a leadership change. I know that. Lu Tingshan stood up and paced the office 3 times. He stopped, picked up his phone, and sent me a message from a different number, since I had already blocked his primary one. Shen Qingshu, what do you actually want? Shares, money, give me a number. I replied with 3 words. See you there. The extraordinary general meeting was set for 2 weeks later. During that time, Lu Tingshan did everything in his power to stop me, lobbying institutional investors, sending open letters to retail shareholders, and even using his media connections to smear my reputation. Headlines began appearing in the financial news. Shen Qingshu, from fiancé to vengeful woman, a calculated capital hunt, the Lu Group power struggle, business move or private grudge, insider leak. Shen Qingshu repeatedly used marriage to blackmail Lu Tingshan. I laughed when I read them. The insider was Lu Tingshan himself. I didn't bother responding. I knew the PR war wasn't the deciding factor. Everything came down to the meeting, the extraordinary general meeting. The main auditorium at Lu Group headquarters was packed with over 200 shareholders. People were even standing in the back rows. I sat in the third row of the shareholder section, flanked by Fang Yuan and Qin Zheng. Lu Tingshan stood at the podium. His suit was sharp and his hair perfectly styled, but even that couldn't hide the dark circles under his eyes. Dear shareholders, someone has proposed a re-election of the CEO today. I believe this is an act of gross irresponsibility toward the company. I stood up. Mr. Lu, before we discuss the re-election, I have a document that needs to be disclosed to all shareholders. The entire room turned toward me. Lu Tingshan's expression shifted. Shen Qingshu, this is a formal meeting, not your. This document concerns the significant interests of this company. Every shareholder has a right to know. I took the file from Fang Yuan and walked onto the stage. This is a betting agreement signed by Mr. Lu Tingshan 3 years ago. I projected the document onto the giant screen. The room erupted into whispers. The terms were crystal clear. The jewelry line's market value must grow by 300% within 3 years, or Lu Tingshan shall resign as CEO and forfeit 15% of his shares. According to Lu Group's annual reports, the jewelry line's actual growth over the last 3 years was 127%, falling far short of the 300% target. I flipped to the final page. Per the terms of this agreement, Mr. Lu Tingshan is required to. That agreement is invalid. Lu Tingshan interrupted, his voice booming. On what grounds? Because the counterparty no longer exists. K Capital was liquidated last year. I smiled. K Capital was indeed liquidated, but the rights within the agreement were transferred to a new entity. I pulled another paper from the folder. This is the deed of assignment from K Capital. The assignee is Shen Qingshu personally. The crowd gasped again. Lu Tingshan went pale. Which means, I said, facing the shareholders, I am now the sole beneficiary of this agreement. I have the right to demand Mr. Lu fulfill the terms, resign as CEO and surrender 15% of his holdings. Furthermore, I continued, according to Article 23 of the company bylaws, entering into a betting agreement during a CEO's tenure without reporting it to the board is a serious compliance violation. The board has the authority to dismiss the CEO immediately on these grounds. I turned toward the board members. Mr. Zhao, as an independent director, I believe it is time for a vote. Zhao Huan stood up, glanced at Lu Tingshan, and then at the other directors. I propose an immediate emergency board meeting to vote on the removal of the CEO. Lu Tingshan stood frozen, his hands gripping the podium so hard his knuckles were white. He looked at the hundreds of shareholders, then at me. Shen Qingshu, he said, his voice hoarse, what are you even after? I walked up to him until we were only a step apart. In front of everyone I said, you bet and lost back then, so you had to marry me. You bet and lost now, so get out of the chair. The room fell silent. Lu Tingshan's eyes turned red, not with emotion, but with pure rage and humiliation. He stared at me for 10 long seconds before turning to walk off the stage. As he passed me, he whispered a sentence only I could hear. You think this is over? I didn't answer because I knew it was far from over. 3 days after the meeting, Lu Tingshan managed to reach me through a middleman, my mother. Qingshu dear, Tingshan just called me. He said he wants to have a proper talk with you. Mom, stay out of this. He said he knows he was wrong. He wants to apologize in person. Mom, I took a deep breath. What's between him and me can't be fixed with an apology. Please don't get involved. After hanging up, I stared out the office window for a moment. Then my phone rang, a stranger's number. I picked up. Shen Qingshu. It was Lu Tingshan. How did you get my new number? There isn't much I can't find out if I want to. What do you want? Let's talk in person. We have nothing to talk about. Are you sure? His voice carried that dangerous tone I knew all too well. If you don't see me, I can't guarantee your family won't be affected. My grip tightened on the phone. Are you threatening me? Not a threat, just advice. He gave me an address, 8:00 p.m. tonight, my private club. I'll be waiting. He hung up at 8:00 p.m. I arrived at his club, a suburban villa decorated like a miniature palace. I had been here many times before, always under the illusion that it was our home. Now I realized it was just a place where he displayed his trophies. When I walked in, Lu Tingshan was sitting on the sofa with 2 glasses of red wine on the table. Sit. I remained standing. Spit it out. He glanced at me and took a sip of wine. Drop the lawsuit, rescind the betting agreement, give up on the CEO re-election. No, name your price. You already know my terms, 30% of the shares. He set his glass down. That's the highest I'll go. I don't want your shares. Then what do you want? I told you, I want to see you lose. Lu Tingshan stood up and walked over to me. Shen Qingshu, don't push it. Push it. I looked him in the eye. Did you think about pushing it when you called me a free designer? Did you think about it when you said she's just a designer, what could she possibly do? His expression froze. Do you know what the worst part was? I took a step forward. It's that you made me believe you loved me. 3 years, over 1,000 days, you were acting every single day, and I was the fool who thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. My voice didn't tremble, but every word was spat out with venom. What you owe me isn't money or shares, it's 3 years of a sincere heart. Lu Tingshan was silent for a long time, then he said the one thing that made me see him for exactly who he was. How much is a sincere heart even worth? I laughed. It was a short, dry sound. Lu Tingshan, you really don't understand anything, do you? I turned to leave. Wait. His voice turned cold. If you don't agree to my terms, I will ruin you. How? I'll expose your private life. I'll say you used marriage to climb the ladder, that you're a calculating woman bent on revenge, that you're using dirty tactics to seize company assets. Do you have proof? I don't need proof. Public opinion doesn't care about proof. I stopped and turned back around. Lu Tingshan, do you know why? I'm not accepting your deal. Why? Because while you were busy threatening me, you were doing me a favor. What favor? You were handing me evidence. I pulled my phone out of my bag and hit the stop button on the recording app. Lu Tingshan's face transformed. Every word of your threat is recorded. I slipped the phone back into my bag, including the part where you said public opinion doesn't care about proof. I wonder how that will play out. Lu Tingshan's face flushed deep red, the veins in his neck bulging. Shen Qingshu, oh right, I pulled a USB drive from my bag. There's something else you might find more interesting. What is it? A complete record of your tax evasion over the last 3 years. Lu Tingshan's pupils contracted. The total amount is 270 million yuan. I tossed the USB drive lightly in my hand. I have an appointment with the tax authorities tomorrow morning at 10:00 a.m. Lu Tingshan lunged forward to grab the drive. I stepped back and tucked it away. Grabbing it won't help. Fang Yuan has the original, Qin Zheng has a copy, and there are 3 backups in the cloud. I looked at him. Lu Tingshan, you have 2 choices. 1, self-report to the tax bureau and pay the back taxes plus fines. It'll cost you about 400 million. 2, wait for them to knock on your door. At that point it won't just be a fine. Are you threatening me? Not a threat. I smiled. Just advice. I turned and walked toward the door. Shen Qingshu, he roared behind me, you'll regret this. I opened the door and stepped out. The night wind caught my hair. I stood on the steps and looked back at the villa one last time. Lu Tingshan stood in the living room, watching me through the floor-to-ceiling window like a cornered animal. I got into the car. Let's go. As the car pulled away, I messaged Fang Yuan. Tax Bureau 10:00 a.m. tomorrow, have the materials ready. Fang Yuan replied instantly, on it. The next morning at 10:00 a.m. I didn't go to the tax bureau, Fang Yuan did. I took a set of materials to a different location, a financial news livestream studio. Qin Zheng had arranged it. Shen Qingshu, are you sure there's no coming back once we go live? I'm not looking back. The broadcast began. I sat in the studio across from the host. Ms. Shen, thank you for joining us. What do you have to share with us today? Facing the camera, I presented the evidence of Lu Tingshan's tax evasion piece by piece, bank statements, invoice copies, and records of fund transfers. Every item was verifiable. Every transaction was clear. Based on the evidence in my hand, Mr. Lu Tingshan, CEO of Lu Group, has evaded a total of 270 million yuan in taxes over the past 3 years through fake invoices, offshore transfers, and fraudulent expense claims. The host gasped. And the source of this evidence, it comes from Lu Group's internal financial system. The accounts and passwords Mr. Lu used for these operations were the ones he had me set up for him. I looked straight into the lens, because he believed his own people would never betray him. 15 minutes after the broadcast, Lu Group's stock price began to plummet. It dropped 12% within half an hour and 27% within an hour. By the closing bell, the stock was down 41%. Wiping out over 6 billion in market value. Simultaneously, the official social media account of the tax bureau posted, regarding the online report of alleged tax evasion by Lu Group CEO Lu Tingshan, our bureau has initiated a formal investigation according to the law. At 3:00 p.m. that Afternoon, Lu Group held an emergency board meeting. Zhao Huan presided. In accordance with company bylaws and relevant regulations, I proposed the immediate removal of Mr. Lu Tingshan from the position of CEO and the formation of a special investigation committee to cooperate with the authorities. The vote 9 in favor, 2 against, 1 abstention. Lu Tingshan was out 5:00 p.m. that same day. I stepped out of the livestream studio and stood at the building entrance, waiting for my car. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. 2 uniformed officers stepped out, brushed past me and headed toward the side entrance. I followed their path with my eyes. Lu Tingshan was standing by the side door, looking sharp in his suit and clutching a briefcase. His face was ashen. His lips had lost all color. The 2 officers approached him. "Mr. Lu Tingshan, we're from the Tax Investigation Bureau. Please come with us to assist in an investigation." Lu Tingshan glanced at them, then turned his gaze toward me across those few dozen yards. Our eyes locked. His expression held something I had never seen before, not anger, not hate, but a total hollow blankness, like a man who had suddenly discovered the ground beneath him had vanished. His mouth opened as if to speak, but no sound came out. As they led him into the car, I saw his lips move behind the window. I caught the words, "Who are you really?" I stood there, watching the car pull away. The wind picked up, carrying a chill. I looked down at my phone. There was a message from Qin Zheng. "Congratulations, you won." I stared at the message for a long time before typing 3 words back. "It's not over." The news of Lu Tingshan being taken away for investigation dominated every headline. But it didn't end there. A week later, I held a solo exhibition at the Hungrui Group Art Gallery. Yes, an art exhibition, not a jewelry show. This was the first time I revealed my other identity to the public, a painter. 20 oil paintings from the past 5 years lined the walls, cold in style and dark in tone. Each piece radiated a sense of restrained power. The turnout was massive. People from the art world, the fashion industry and the financial elite were all there. Half an hour after the opening, there was a stir at the entrance. Lu Tingshan had arrived. He had been released on bail, but he was clearly a mess. He was unshaven, his suit was wrinkled, and his eyes were bloodshot. He pushed through the crowd and came straight to me. "Shen Qingshu, Mr. Lu, out on bail already? You, here for the show?" I pointed to a painting behind me. It was a massive canvas depicting a gambling table, piled high with chips. On one side sat a man in a suit, his back to the viewer. On the other sat a woman facing forward. She held a card in her hand, a faint, ambiguous smile on her lips. The title, The Gamble. Lu Tingshan stared at it, his lips trembling. "This is The Gamble from 3 years ago," I said. "You, Lu Tingshan, do you want to know the truth?" He looked at me and said nothing. I turned to face the gathered guests. "Everyone, thank you for coming. Today isn't just about art. I'd like to tell you a story." The gallery fell silent. 3 years ago, a man made a bet with his friends to see who could land the hardest to get woman in their circle. He put down 5 million, claiming he could get her to agree to an engagement within 2 months. Lu Tingshan went pale. He won. 2 months later, she said yes. I walked to another painting. This one showed a woman at a desk, buried in documents. She looked focused and cold, with a barely perceptible smirk. The title, The Pawn, but that woman knew about the bet from the very beginning. The crowd erupted into whispers. Lu Tingshan snapped his head up. "Impossible." "It was possible," I said, looking at him, "because I'm the one who arranged that bet." "What? You thought you chose me?" "No, I'm the one who chose you from the start." I moved to the third painting. A giant chessboard with scattered pieces. A woman stood on one side, her hand pressed firmly on the board, while a man stood on the other, his hand hovering uselessly in the air. The title, Checkmate. 3 years ago, I needed a way into Lu Group to execute a capital acquisition plan, but I needed a reason, one that no one would ever suspect. I turned back to him. "Your little bet provided that reason." Lu Tingshan stood there as if the strength had been drained from his body. You used me." "Yes," I said, "exactly the way you thought you were using me." The room was pin-drop quiet. "You thought you pursued me, but I let you catch me. You thought you tricked me into those agreements, but I let you think they were your idea. You thought you were in control, but the person pulling the strings was always me." I walked back to the first painting. "Lu Tingshan, you didn't lose the bet and have to marry me. You lost the bet and were picked by me." He stumbled back, barely able to keep his footing. 3 years ago, your friends thought you won that bet, but the real winner was me. I let you win once so that you'd feel safe enough to lose everything else later on." He opened his mouth, his voice a hoarse rasp. Who are you? I am Shen Qingshu, I said, international jewelry designer, painter, and partner at K Capital China. I'm also the person who just dragged you off your throne. Thunderous applause broke out. Lu Tingshan stood in the center of it, looking like an emperor who had been stripped bare. He turned and stumbled toward the exit. As he passed me, I whispered, Lu Tingshan, your gamble is over, mine is just beginning. He didn't look back. As he left the gallery, I saw his shoulders shaking. Whether he was crying or laughing, I couldn't tell. Perhaps it was both. 3 months later, the top floor of the new Hungrui Group headquarters, my office, outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city skyline stretched out, with ships crawling along the distant river. My office was minimalist. A large desk with a computer and design portfolios, and a few of my smaller paintings on the walls. A vase of white calla lilies I'd bought this morning sat on the corner. The phone rang. It was the front desk. Ms. Shen, Mr. Liu is here to see you. He has no appointment. Send him up. 5 minutes later, the door opened. Lu Tingshan stood there. He had lost a lot of weight. His suit hung loosely on his frame. His hair had grayed significantly, and the wrinkles around his eyes were as deep as knife wounds. His eyes had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a gray, heavy exhaustion. Sit. I pointed to the chair he sat, resting his hands on his knees. Shen Qingshu. Yes, I'm bankrupt. No, the company was acquired by Hungrui. I'm just a minority shareholder now with less than 1%. I know, the tax fines totaled 420 million. I sold every asset I owned and it wasn't enough. I still owe the bank 180 million. I know. He looked up at me. You know everything. I do. Then do you know how I've spent these last 3 months? Yes. I opened a drawer, pulled out a file and slid it across the desk. This is everything from your last 3 months, your daily itinerary, who you saw, what you said, and every cent that moved in or out of your accounts. Lu Tingshan flipped through a few pages, his hands starting to shake. You were spying on me. Not spying, protecting. Protecting. Yes, you owe a lot of money to people who aren't very patient. If I hadn't been keeping an eye on you, you might have met with an accident by now. He froze. Why protect me? Because I need you alive. Why? Because only the living can witness me winning. Lu Tingshan lowered his head and stayed silent for a very long time. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled something out and placed it on the desk. The engagement ring, the one I had fished out of the champagne tower. The 3-carat diamond caught the light, but the setting still bore a faint stain from dried champagne that wouldn't wash away. I'm returning this, he said. I picked it up and looked at it in my palm. I walked over to the window. The sunlight hit the diamond, refracting into tiny splinters of light. Lu Tingshan. Yes. Do you know why this ring is exactly 3 carats? Why? Because 3 is my lucky number. 3 years ago I told myself, I'll give you 3 years, either you prove you truly love me or I destroy you. I set the ring on the windowsill. The 3 years are up. He stood and walked over to me. Shen Qingshu, don't apologize. I cut him off. Your apologies aren't worth anything. He went silent. I turned back to the desk, picked up a small velvet box and handed it to him. Open it. He did. Inside was a new ring, silver, no diamond, just clean lines, with a small inscription on the inner band. He leaned in to read it. It said, accept the loss. His eyes turned red. This is for you, I said. Keep it for your next gamble. Lu Tingshan clutched the box, trembling, unable to say a word. I walked back behind my desk and opened my design portfolio. You can leave now. He stood there for a long time. Eventually, he tucked the box into his inner jacket pocket and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he stopped. Shen Qingshu. Yes. Did you win? I looked up at his back. What do you think? He didn't answer. He opened the door and walked out. The moment it clicked shut, the office returned to its quiet stillness. I went back to my designs. My phone lit up with a message from Qin Zheng. Celebration dinner tonight, don't forget. I replied with one word, okay. Then I pulled a small voice recorder from my drawer. It contained every recording from the last 3 years, every word Lu Tingshan had said, every promise, every threat. I hit the delete button. The screen prompted, confirm delete all files. I tapped yes. The device vibrated once and the memory cleared. I didn't need them anymore. I tossed the recorder back into the drawer and walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the city in gold. In the distance, the last ship of the day sailed by, leaving a long white wake. I picked up the 3-carat ring from the sill and held it up. The diamond caught the warm evening light. I gave it one last look and put it in my pocket, not to keep. It just to find the right place to throw it away, but not yet right now. I had a celebration to attend. I grabbed my coat, turned off the lights and stepped out. My assistant Xiao Lin was waiting in the hall. Ms. Shin, the car is downstairs. Let's go. We headed for the elevator. When the doors opened, I saw myself in the mirrored wall, black suit, low ponytail, silver earrings, and a faint, knowing smile. It was the same face as the woman who had stood before the champagne tower 3 years ago, but the eyes were different. 3 years ago, those eyes were full of heartbreak. Now they held nothing but peace. The elevator reached the ground floor. The lobby was brightly lit, and Hungrui employees greeted me as they passed. Good evening, Ms. Shin. Good evening. I walked out into the night breeze. A black sedan was waiting, and Qin Zheng was leaning against the door with a coffee in his hand. Ready to go, chief designer. Ready. I got into the car and we merged into the flow of traffic outside the city. Lights blurred into streaks of neon against the glass. What are you thinking about? Qin Zheng asked. The design drafts for tomorrow. That's it. That's it. Qin Zheng laughed. I smiled too. The car sped through the city toward the brightest lights. In the rearview mirror, the silhouette of the Lu Group building faded into the dark, turning into a distant shadow left far behind. I didn't look back. The end.